Here is the text with the Arabic numerals removed and formatted into a single paragraph. This is a suspenseful detective series highly acclaimed by mystery fans. The series has so far released a total of seasons. Each season depicts two bizarre cases. And each season's rating is over points. This score can even be compared to classic series such as the Sherlock Holmes stories. To help everyone better understand the cases, I will explain the prequel series Endeavour to you. Today I will talk about the pilot episode Endeavour. The story takes place in Oxford, England. One Monday morning, Oxford Police Station receives a missing person report. The missing person is named Mary, a 8-year-old red-headed girl. Mary comes from an ordinary family and is currently attending a girls' school. 2 days ago, that is last Saturday afternoon, Mary said she was going to the movies with her friend. But after leaving, she never returned home. The police then learned from Mary's friend that the two did not actually meet last Saturday. They didn't go to the movies together either. It seems Mary just made up an excuse to leave home. With her mother passed away and her only sister already married, Mary lived with her father. Although Mary's father was busy earning money to support the family and paid little attention to her upbringing, the father-daughter relationship was still quite harmonious. In her father's impression, his daughter was obedient and sensible, with no signs of dating. So she was unlikely to have run away or eloped with a boyfriend. This case gave the veteran inspector at Oxford Police a big headache. The veteran inspector's name was Thursday. His subordinates affectionately called him Uncle Four. To quickly find out Mary's whereabouts, Uncle Four brought in some rookie officers from nearby stations to help with mundane tasks like visits and patrols. Our main character Morse was one of those rookies. Although new to the police force, Morse was meticulous in his thinking and thorough in investigations. He was also highly intelligent, so he quickly found a breakthrough in Mary's disappearance. He discovered several hardcover poetry anthologies in Mary's room, all expensive collector's editions. Given Mary's family circumstances, she shouldn't have been able to afford such anthologies. Morse therefore guessed that Mary was likely secretly dating someone. These poetry anthologies were probably gifts from that person to Mary. Moreover, some puzzle magazines were tucked into the anthologies. The magazines featured a popular British word puzzle game at the time. It involved filling in letters into a grid based on clues, forming coherent words or phrases both across and down the grid. Morse found that in each issue, Mary had only filled in the first across clue and the last down clue. The across solutions corresponded to addresses in Oxford, while the down solutions were numbers, likely indicating meeting places and times. The puzzles were set by an anonymous writer using the pseudonym Mr. X. Morse guessed that this Mr. X was likely the person Mary was dating in secret. He was using the puzzles to covertly arrange meetings with Mary, probably for two reasons. 1. Mary was underage, just a 8-year-old girl. 2. Mr. X was likely married or a prominent figure, making their relationship improper to make public. But whichever the reason, or a combination of both, this relationship between Mr. X and Mary seemed to violate moral and ethical norms. On the day Mary disappeared, the puzzle indicated a woodland area in Oxford's outskirts and the number as the meeting place and time. Morse immediately reported this information along with his deductions to Uncle Four. However, before police could investigate the woodland area, they received a report from an eyewitness. Someone had discovered a young girl's body in the outskirts woodland. When police arrived, they confirmed the deceased was the missing Mary. Mary had been struck with a blunt object, then strangled to death. After killing her, the perpetrator had also stripped off Mary's clothes. But there were no signs of sexual assault on her body. Additionally, her hand bore some inexplicable letters and numbers. Their meaning was unclear at first. Police also found a damaged man's wristwatch near the body, likely left behind by the perpetrator. The watch was frozen at, probably the time of the murder. Due to limited forensic capabilities at the time, the coroner could not pinpoint the exact time of death, only estimating Mary had been dead for over hours. Based on the evidence, Morse deduced Mary likely died on the night she disappeared, that is, p.m. last Saturday night. The Mr. X who had secretly met Mary through the puzzles was clearly a prime suspect. Morse immediately went to the magazine publishing the puzzles to investigate. According to the editor, the word puzzles were updated every Saturday. Mr. X would mail in the puzzles to the magazine by Wednesday each week. But the particular issue on the day Mary disappeared was peculiar. It was hand-delivered on Friday by a university student barely making the print deadline. Due to the late delivery, it nearly missed publication. The student who delivered it was named Milton, currently enrolled at Oxford University. When Morse finally found Milton, he had already been shot dead in the head in a secluded area by the riverside. The crime scene evidence initially pointed towards suicide. However, Morse then received a crucial lead from Milton's classmates. It turned out that the previous victim Mary had been secretly dating Milton for some time before breaking up with him a few months ago, allegedly because she had fallen for her Oxford professor, Pearson, instead. Furthermore, Milton had no interest or skills in cryptic crosswords, making it impossible for him to be the anonymous Mr. X supplying the puzzles to the newspaper. Professor Pearson, on the other hand, was obsessed with cryptic crosswords. So Morse went to interrogate Pearson, who admitted under pressure that he was indeed Mr. X providing the newspaper crosswords. His relationship with Mary began half a year ago at a faculty social event that Mary had attended, seeming unusually nervous and awkward, enough to catch Pearson's and other professors' attention. One male colleague even mocked Mary as being a country bumpkin. Unperturbed, Pearson made a whimsical bet with this man that he could groom Mary into a sophisticated elite lady in no time. From then on, Pearson used the coded crossword puzzles as a pretext to meet Mary in secret, with the rare poetry anthology found in Mary's home being a gift from him. However, Pearson claimed their relationship was purely literary, concealed only because he was already married and feared damaging his reputation. Morse didn't buy Pearson's story about just discussing poetry. He bluntly informed Pearson that Mary was now dead and demanded to know his whereabouts on the day she was murdered. To Morse's surprise, Pearson seemed genuinely shocked upon hearing the murder location, a remote woodland area that didn't match the downtown park where they had arranged to meet last week. Pearson reasoned that his wife must have accidentally mailed the wrong crossword envelope, sending the one meant for this week instead of last week's, which caused Mary to go to the wrong rendezvous point and meet her tragic end there. No wonder Pearson had waited fruitlessly at the park last Saturday. To verify Pearson's claims, Morse visited his home to speak with his wife Allison, recognizing her as a former celebrated singer who had given up her career after marrying Pearson. Though shaken by news of her husband's affair, Allison corroborated that she did indeed mail the incorrect crossword puzzle on Friday after a university student named Milton had dropped by. The envelopes and their contents matched the newspaper editor's account, seemingly clearing Pearson of suspicion. Back at the station, Morse was informed that a man's watch found at Mary's murder scene belonged to Milton, bearing his initials and birth date, making him the prime suspect in Thurston's eyes. Thurston theorized that Milton used the crosswords to learn of Mary and Pearson's meetup, staking out the woodland in hopes of catching them together and ruining Pearson's reputation for stealing his girlfriend. But due to Allison's mistake, Mary arrived alone, leading the enraged Milton to murder and strip her body before killing himself out of guilt. The motive seemed sound, but Morse felt something was off. If Milton sought revenge, why wait months after the breakup? Morse remained more suspicious of Pearson. Perhaps Mary threatened to expose their affair to Allison, prompting Pearson to have her killed and frame Milton to protect his status and marriage. But one question plagued Morse: what did the string of letters and numbers scrawled on Mary's hand signify? Just as he began searching for proof, an eyewitness came forward exonerating Pearson, claiming to have spotted a red-haired woman in a green dress matching Mary's description alive in the woods that Sunday morning at 8 a.m. If credible, this testimony meant Morse's estimated time of death was completely wrong, since Pearson had an ironclad alibi attending church at 8:16 a.m. that Sunday when Mary must have been killed. The case stalled until Mary's friend revealed a new suspect, contradicting her earlier statement about Mary being at the movies on Saturday afternoon. The friend admitted they had really visited an illegal brothel where Mary worked occasionally as an escort. Around 7 p.m., Mary insisted on leaving, likely for her rendezvous with Pearson. But one client became aggressive when she tried to depart, sparking an argument. Beaten by Morse and Thurston, the madam finally identified the client as a prominent London MP. Despite the MP's status, Morse and Thurston paid him a visit. He freely admitted arguing with Mary at the brothel that night when she wanted to leave, even hastily scribbling his contact details on her hand before she fled, explaining the strange markings. However, the MP denied killing her, claiming he returned straight to his London residence after the brothel, with an ironclad alibi of attending a meeting with colleagues in the city around 8:16 a.m. on Sunday morning when Mary was murdered. His claims checked out. Then the medical examiner provided a new lead. Though unable to pinpoint Mary's exact time of death, undigested periwinkles were found in her stomach during the autopsy. This seemed odd if she died at 8:16 a.m. on Sunday, as few eat periwinkles for breakfast. The clue made Morse reevaluate if Mary's time of death was over 24 hours before her body's discovery. She could not have died Sunday morning or evening, only on Saturday night at 8:16 p.m. But then how did the witness see her alive Sunday morning? Examining Mary's discarded clothes, Morse spotted a crucial discrepancy. Despite being only 15 years old, Mary had an unusually mature, womanly physique. However, the green dress found at the crime scene was clearly too small to fit her. In other words, it was not the clothing stripped off the victim by the murderer. This suggested that the red-haired woman in the green dress spotted in the woods on Sunday morning was not actually Mary herself, but rather someone impersonating her appearance. But why would the killer stage such an appearance the day after the murder? To uncover the killer's identity and motive, Morse took the green dress from the crime scene and scoured clothing stores across Oxford until he found the shop that sold it. Surprisingly, the saleswoman vividly recalled the purchaser, an elegant middle-aged woman who seemed enamored with the dress, buying two identical ones. This lead allowed Morse to deduce the entire truth behind the case. He then revealed his reasoning to Sergeant Thurston. The murderer was not Milton as suspected, nor Pearson as Morse theorized, and definitely not the lecherous MP. It was in fact Pearson's wife Alison, Morse's childhood idol and former celebrated singer. Alison must have learned about Pearson's affair with Mary and, desperate to salvage her marriage and reputation, conceived a plan to eliminate her romantic rival. On Friday, Alison deliberately swapped Pearson's crossword envelopes, luring Mary alone to the remote woods to be murdered. After killing her, Alison stripped off Mary's unremarkable clothing, leaving only the green dress she had newly purchased at the scene. She also damaged Milton's stolen watch to freeze the time at 8:16 p.m. before planting it by the body. The next morning, Alison donned a red wig and the other identical green dress to pass herself off as Mary, intentionally letting a witness spot her in the woods near the murder site. Her aim was to mislead the police about Mary's time of death to fabricate an alibi for Pearson, who would otherwise be the prime suspect after Mary's death. Contrary to his claims, Pearson's clandestine meetings with Mary were not for literary discussions but for sexual trysts at secluded rendezvous spots, with no witnesses to confirm his whereabouts that Saturday evening when Mary likely died. But Alison went even further to create the perfect crime. Exploiting her charms, she seduced poor Milton, Mary's vengeful ex-boyfriend still bitter over her affair with Pearson, into a sexual encounter only to then coldly shoot him dead right after Mary's murder. Allison staged the scene to appear as if the unhinged Milton killed Mary out of jealousy before committing suicide out of guilt. This was the disturbing truth behind the murderous conspiracy. As brilliant as Allison's scheme was, one fatal oversight proved her undoing, underestimating 15-year-old Mary's physique and buying her an ill-fitting dress, a discrepancy spotted by the perceptive Morse. Yet the young detective felt deeply disappointed that his former idol turned out to be so ruthless, meticulously committing double homicide just to preserve her status and unfaithful husband's reputation. Was it obsession or true love that drove Allison to such depravity? In the end, Allison was arrested and confessed her murderous actions precisely as deduced by Morse. But unable to face judicial punishment that would shatter her dignified facade, Allison hanged herself in custody. As for Morse, his stellar work earned him an official place in the Oxford police force as a sergeant, launching his storied future career cracking ingenious criminal cases. The character of Morse was the brilliant yet cantankerous detective created by British author Colin Dexter in the beloved Inspector Morse novel series. Morse's fame and popularity in the UK virtually rivaled other iconic literary sleuths like Hercule Poirot and Sherlock Holmes. If you're a fan interested in more Morse cases, be sure to leave us comments and feedback. Depending on the response, we may continue updating this collection depicting dozens of Morse's murder investigations over his career. Your support is what inspires us to keep producing new content, so stay tuned to our channel. Alright, that's all for today's episode. See you next time.